So I'm delighted to be here at ICoNS', and I would like first to thank the scientific committee for giving us the opportunity to present the French ambitions in the development of a pilot project on panel-based genome sequencing called PERIGENOMED, and how we came up with this project. I'm here with Christelle Thauvin, my buddy at work, and Camille Level, health economist from Dijon, as well as Sylvie Audan, geneticist from Rennes. So why are we developing this project in Dijon for France? Over the last 10 years, France has selected University Hospital Federation around innovative projects. And 10 years ago, our FHU Translab was the first in France created around the arrival of genomic medicine, with particular regards to ethics, economics, and social issues. We have developed all pilot projects, in particular in urgent settings, such as intensive care and pregnancies. And we work in close collaboration with another more recent FHU of the same topic called Genomics, so led by Sylvie. What is the state of newborn screening in France and how is it developing? French newborn screening was one of the first to be introduced in the world in 1972. But until recently, France was one of the developed countries with the fewest of diseases detected at birth, with only 14 diseases screened. This means that we now have to speed up the process of extending it with a wide range of diseases and techniques, and therefore to think about genome sequencing techniques. Within now FHU, we have identified in 2019 that the next pilot project to be developed would be the integration of genomics into newborn screening. At that time, it was too early in France to support such a project, and you all know that French are notorious for their art of protesting, including the scientific community, and we then proposed to let them express. We developed a purely human and social sciences project around the concept of social acceptability and expanding newborn screening, in particular using genetic techniques. So the SEDEN project was divided in 4 parts, including surveys of professionals, parents, and public decision makers using both qualitative and quantitative data. On the professional side, the questionnaire was completed by almost 1,200 healthcare professionals involved in newborn screening. They were particularly in favor of including more actionable early onset diseases and were not opposed to screening actionable later onset diseases as well. About parents, more than 1,600 questionnaires were completed, supplemented by interviews, and there were 2 distinct profiles. The first one was a profile of parents who wanted to know about diseases that first appeared in childhood, with treatment and care that could improve the quality of life. And the second was a profile of parents who wanted to know everything, even about late-onset diseases, even without treatment, particularly with a view of anticipation. Generally speaking, they agreed that using a genetic test as a first line makes no difference to them. In parallel with this project, things have moved much faster than we anticipated, in particular with the change in French bioethics law, which now allows genetic tests to be used as first line in newborn screening. As you know, the launch of all your projects around the world, the rapid increase in number of therapies, the falling cost of sequencing, but also the voice of parents who told us that diagnostic odyssey was much more traumatic than early newborn screening. This led us to start building the PERIGENOMED project at the end of 2022. This is a project that we have conceived as a fairly broad public health project, since over and above the question of the technical feasibility of a panel-based genome sequencing newborn screening, we were also interested in questions of clinical validity and utility, as well as psychological, ethical, and economical issues. 6 partners centers, sorry, I'm not on the good slide. Never mind, it's not in the... so 6 inclusion partner centers have been selected from both FHU, and I'm coming back, this will follow our participation in the European Screen for Care project, in which we have to include 1,000 newborn born in Dijon maternity unit in 2024. So my slides were not in place, sorry about that. So we have launched working groups and will launch soon an initial study of analytic validity based on a Novasec X Plus technology to optimize costs. As it is very difficult to identify funding for a very large project, we have designed a first phase called PERIGENOMED Clinics 1, consisting of evaluating the information and biological circuits, the feasibility and the real acceptability of a panel-based genome sequencing newborn screening, with the inclusion of 2,500 newborns in 2025. The next phase will be a larger scale project called PERIGENOMED Clinics 2, involving around 20,000 newborns, the number needed to assess the test performance, clinical benefit, and carry out a medico-economic evaluation built on a model of a prefigurator with active discussions with the French Ministry of Health. We want to continue our strong commitment on LC studies, including the profiles and reasons for declining the study, the satisfaction and perceived utility of those who accepted it, whatever the outcome, and analysis of psychological, organizational, and budgetary impacts. One of the innovative aspects of our project will be the possibility to build on an external control group based on data from a link between two large national databases, the National Database for Rare Diseases that we call the BNDMR, and the National Health Data System called the SNDS for medico-economic evaluation. Indeed, the SNDS is exhaustive at the national level. I make it possible to monitor care pathway and consumption. However, it is difficult within the CNDS to identify people suffering from a specific rare disease, and in the BNDMR makes it possible. This will enable us to detect false negatives in PERIGENOMED, also to create an external control group to compare the care pathway of children screened in PERIGENOMED with those diagnosed in childhood, and also to study the cost of diseases screened as part of natural history and compare them with those of PERIGENOMED. So regarding the gene list, we would like to build on the work you have all done, and thank you all for sharing, which is the basis of this consortium. We have highlighted the genes which are in common to all lists, the genes that are frequently found along with their arguments, and this list will be revised by the Rare Disease Network. Surprisingly, as we said already, less than 60 genes are in common with all lists, showing the different interpretation in treatable conditions and probably some difference in access to therapies within countries. As a majority of pilots, we have opted with two lists of treatable and a list of actionable genes, for which there is a substantial benefit to be diagnosed before the age of 5. The organization of rare diseases in France will greatly facilitate the implementation of the project and its future generalization. There are 23 rare disease networks which have inspired the topics of the European Reference Network. And at the right, an example of the organization of one disease network, the metabolic one. The principle is to create a network of reference centers and expertise centers throughout France. A more recent organization has been set up at the national level with rare disease expertise platforms on the right, and in parallel to the regional newborn screening centers on the left, making it easy to identify the expert center for a group of diseases. At the present time, as with other projects, we have many challenges to face, including funding, and I hope we will answer to all these challenges all together. Yesterday, I've asked Robert Green whether it would be possible to set up an ethics forum within ICoNS to enable us to discuss our difficult cases when setting up our respective projects, and it would be really great if this could happen. Thank you for your attention, and a special thank to all the people involved in the project and the coordinators of ICoNS'.